Next, the 4G pitch. Forward video, isn't it? Good evening, councillors and honoured guests. Can I have your attention, please? Before we start this evening, I'd like to give you some notices. Would it take council are now recording these sessions? Streaming them live. Streaming them on the town council's YouTube channel. So by virtue of attending the meeting, we do consent to having your image and audio first. So if you do not wish to do so, then you should not stay for the meeting. Those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire alarm tonight, so if you hear a fire alarm, please step to the nearest exit and congregate at the fire assembly point for the So I'd like to thank everybody that's come on this evening for our leisure services meeting. So I will take item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies.
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Jewell and councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest before we get started? No? Okay, that's excellent. So we'll move on to item 3 then, which is minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of January 2025. And to approve those minutes. That was circulated at the last full council meeting on the 11th of February. Before we approve those minutes, does anyone have any questions pertaining to leisure services? In that case, can I have a show of hands to approve those minutes? Against? Abstaining? Those minutes have been passed. Thank you very much. We go on to item 4, which is action follow-ups on page 3, appendix 4.
Yes, I think all the updates that have been populated in here are up to date. Does anyone have any questions on any of those or any of the outstanding follow-ups on them?
Am I allowed?
June, you may? Yes.
I think you signed first. Just on the meeting on the 7th, 11th, minute 34 about play equipment at Weevil Park, given the update on that we're waiting now for Reading in some time, please can we go into our own website under Weevil Park, where it's since 2022 we said we're planning to provide a tarmac hard standing to improve sports fields. Clearly we haven't, and we're not. So could we take that out and replace it with a little update about we're going to Reading and waiting?
That's a great idea.
Yes.
Yes, the answer. I hadn't realised it was still on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then the other thing is just a point of interest on the 16th of the 1st, minute 56, about the path in North Woodford. Just, I mean, Carol's not here tonight, so she can't say, but we're on the walking and cycling committee. We're looking at knocking together a kind of local network of cycling routes and all sorts of stuff. And that particular path, we have walked it recently, and it's very, very muddy and soggy. So that's just a little plug. Thank you.
Then there's something else on item 4. I will then go to item 5, which is project and control. 7, isn't it? Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. So this is the charts on pages 5 and 6. So under expenditure, the chart shows an additional column to that, which is you will have seen previously, which shows the revised estimate figures and the actual expenditure against the revised and the original budget. Since the revised budget estimates have been approved, that's a better comparison of where we are, not necessarily just to the original budget, so that's why that looks a little different this time. You will see there's a couple of anomalies in there. Expenditure on allotment shows us under. We've not yet received the invoice for the lease from Reading Borough Council, which I've chased a couple of times, so we're still waiting on that, so that's why that looks slightly askew. And just overall expenditures within budget at this point in the year, and we expect to come in close to the revised estimates at year end. Income, likewise, overall slightly above budget at this point in the year, which is good, and we expect to be close to those revised estimates at year end.
Chairman, can we be reminded how much the lease is on the allotments, please?
I need just a minute. The actual figure, because it did go up. Not really, nearly there.
Yeah, it's pre-negotiated, haven't we?
So £9,673 a year.
So on that basis, Chairman, it would be true to say that the allotments, the council subsidises allotments to the tune of around £8,000 per annum.
If the actual budget figures, which are sort of revised. Yeah, okay. So in this year, so 24-25, I mean the budget figure is around 11,000, just over. The projected figure for next year is different because we did some reapportioning of staff costs, which you may remember previously. So the figure going forward is 34,000 with the reallocation of staff costs. But in this year, the figures you're looking at, yes, it should be about that.
I just asked this question in view of the agenda item later this evening. So I just ask councillors to remember that figure when we come and talk about the item on the agenda for allotments.
We're on to item 6, which is Wood Palace Service Water Development from page 7.
The legislature in June that ticked over well over the last couple of months since our last meeting. As always, put my first two charts and graphs. On the first page there, you can see that we welcomed 86 new members since the last meeting, and the 57 cancellations, the reasons for which are shown in the graph. This was actually the most cancellations we've had in reference moving to another gym within one reporting period. And there was a new gym opened up in Winnersh that obviously taken a little bit of business from us in that way. The reasons specifically were relating to it being a big gym and that it was open 24 hours there. So
Well, it's one of these walk-in 24-hour
all access, and there was also one reference to being closer to work with it as well. I've included, even though we didn't have somebody cite it as a reason, being able to do exercise classes because it was a reason mentioned last time. So I included that just to show that there wasn't anybody that reported it, albeit there was a lot of people that didn't answer. That's why they had to say that. As you can see now as well, membership income has stayed pretty steady now for a period of 12 months, which is great. And hopefully that will continue. The second page of my report, I've got a little section here about family records attack, and I've gone into a bit more detail this time. The last few meetings I've reported is how family records attack has performed within the specific school holiday, which I have done there at the top for February half term, which has just passed, and you can see in comparison to the previous year, it did very, very well. But I have also included some figures for the entirety of the financial year now that that's finished. And you can see that the financial year that's just about to end, we did much better than the previous financial year, pretty much across the board, particularly with banking. One problem we're having now with family records is we're running out of space to put people. It's incredibly competitive, and the parents are calling us up a few hours of the day to try and get a call or a table. So as a trial, throughout the Easter holidays, it's obviously fast approaching, we're going to be opening bookings for 8 AM to see if anyone wants to take up that space as well. Traditionally, very quiet time in the building where we kind of sit up for the day and clean and do things like that. But if it's popular, then we kind of think, why not? We'll see if parents are willing to come out.
I'm very interested if they do, but I've got a funny feeling they will come out at 8. Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, there's no cost involved to us whatsoever. Of course, the building's already open at 7:30, so we'll see. And if it's successful, there'll be future holidays. A couple of notes on the 3G pitch. So I've got some works planned, some major works planned on the 3G pitch, which I've been thinking about for a while, predominantly aimed at basically improving the playing surface and helping to prolong the pitch's life. Hopefully, budget permitting, that would include a redressing of the rubber crumb, which basically means that a company will come along and put between 4 and 6 tons of rubber crumb down on top, which improves lots of important things, the way the ball rolls, bounces, and generally the feel of the foot. And then if we do have a money left over, or if we get some discount on those prices, a decompaction of the infill, which is basically where a big machine comes, shoots all the crumb, bends it, spits back out again, and redistributes it. Both of which would be great for the life of the surface, and hopefully we'll be getting that done in April, early May, if it works. And that kind of links on to the next one as well about the pitch testing and certification. So every 3 years, the pitch has to be retested in order to be certified to appear on the FA 3G pitch register. It is a requirement of the original funding that we used to pay for the pitch in the first place. And that's booked for Monday the 12th of May. By all accounts, I think that it will pass. If it does, for some reason, fail, we get a little bit of a grace period to remedy the risk of failure and then basically get it tested again. However, based on the report we had a couple of weeks ago, it looks like it will pass, and those remedial works coming before it should also help with the chance of it passing anyway. And then it will be added for a further 3 years, at which point it's starting to get towards where we would expect it to be at the end of its life cycle. So we can see it.
5G pitch, 6G pitch, or whatever they call it. I don't know.
Do you know what? There's actually no difference between the 3 and the 4G pitch.
Is there not?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit of just marketing.
It's marketing.
And then over there, we've got a first aid course booked. It's an in-house course, just to retrain some of the staff whose certificates are expiring. Obviously, an important part of what we do, because we do first aid almost every day. And the very last point here is we're running a gym membership promotion, a bit of trial through April in the Woodley Herald, something we've not done before. We've put smaller adverts in the Woodley Herald before really not had much success with it. I worked with the council communications manager and basically had a chat about what she thinks may or may not work. And if April, we're going to be putting the voucher in there, which we have to cut out and bring. It's a little bit old fashioned, you can see how it works. And hopefully be successful and we can use that in the future in a different way, more ambitious way for more popular months such as January if we want to kind of tie in Christmas. It's only valid for new members until the month of April, so it's got an expiry date on it, so it can't be left forever. And we'll see what happens, but I will report back the success of that in the June meeting.
Thank you, Ed. Members, please know your consent to that report. Moving on to item 7, which is parks and buildings, to receive the report on page 9.
Chair. So first up, Woodford Park Leisure Centre, repairs and maintenance, and we commissioned a survey of the sewer drainage from the centre, which is, we've had a number of issues over the years, and I think there's both a result of capacity and the number of people using the centre and the ageing of the pipe work. We think we've probably got some collapsed sections of pipe. There's a lot of old clay pipe under there that we do know of. So that involves a camera investigation of approximately 460 metres of pipe work. There's quite a lot of pipe work there to be looked at. And again, that's a combination of age and treatment damage, and that will give us an idea of what we need to sort out. That's kind of a precursor for any potential work in refurbishment of the leisure centre. Obviously, we're still going to need toilets and things like that. At the moment, the amenities team are having to unlock them, literally rob them on a weekly basis just to keep that going. So it's pretty urgent. Woodford Park, the community orchard garden, which if any of you have had a chance to sort of peer through the fence over there, is looking great. That's now, yeah, it looks really, really good. So the amenities team have constructed that, and that's been a really good project for that team in terms of design and actually getting that done. Really pleased about that. So we're looking at a date in April for that to be open. The first went in there this week actually, so that's now done. While some of our areas have been prepped and seeded around the prepared beds, this end of the park, also on the banks of the lake. Bowls Green cricket wicket and American football pitches all prepped for the season, and football pitches and prepared for the summer league, which starts in May. It's pretty much year round now with football on there. We have had some vandalism, which has been quite frustrating. So we've had some people have gained access to the grounds depot a couple of times by basically putting a hole in the fence and gaining access. We've also actually had some damage, which we're pretty sure is from a pellet gun or something similar on the vehicles down there. So there's been some activity. We have reported all of that to the police. We've got a good system for doing that, both formally through the reporting on the website and also discussion with the PCSOs about what's happening down there. There's some damage also to the play area. Bizarrely, one of the swing seats in the child swing seats has been removed, which has involved actually cutting of the chains, and it just disappeared. So that's someone with some tools. Quite a lot of will to do that, so slightly off, and some damage to the GP unit, unfortunately. So all those issues have been reported. Slightly better news: the duck feed station was installed and has started off really well. Actually, it had over 150 uses in the first weekend. The feed it came with, we did have some comments because it sank. Basically, it was shipped with duck feed that sinks quite quickly, so that's a bit of an anticlimax. It's now got the right seed in it, which floats, and that's proven quite popular. That just for information from previously is free to the council. It's an environmentally friendly unit made from recycled materials. It's solar powered, and it's 10% of the income back to the council, which will go into the community halls. The amenities team have installed a new kitchen at Coronation Hall, and the chapel one will be happening in the next couple of weeks.
It's disappointing to learn about the vandalism in Woodford Park. Can the officers confirm that the repairs are underway? And also, that's the first question. And the subsequent question, I have written to the Deputy Town Clerk regarding the netball, basketball facility and the lack of a net. It's a shame to watch children shoot the baskets without a net.
Yeah, I can answer that. Yes, to the first question in terms of those repairs, that replacement seat's been ordered and that's underway. Fence repairs have been effected down at the yard with some reinforcement there. And in terms of the basketball, they've had a conversation with the amenities manager this week, and actually, slightly oddly, the ROSPA guidance is to not put one on because they can use it traps. Well, people jump.
Oh, I see.
So the one that was on there was something that somebody had put there, but actually our responsibility is still for what's there. So in the first instance, that will come down. He's just investigating what might be an appropriate items on there, if that's in accordance with the ROSPA requirement.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah.
I've seen one or two reports on social media lately also about the misuse of the swings. Do you have any update on that situation?
I can, yes. So that's in relation to the it was called the tornado swing, rotary swing, which is absolutely safe, has passed its ROSPA inspection, and there's no problem with the unit itself. What we have had a report of was an incident where a child was struck with an empty swing seat while it was being used, and being used in the way that it's supposed to be used, because that's what it's for. What we have done, just in the short term while we review it, when it's very, very busy down there, which it often is at the weekend, the location of that item, could be problematic, particularly when it's that busy in terms of kids not necessarily being able to see quite where they're going. They're pushing in on other kids and things like that. You could walk into the path of it. So on reflection and reviewing the risk assessment, we're looking at where that might be better sited, slightly further away, or in a different area. But I would stress it's a safe bit of kit, and actually it's really well used.
Would it not be cheaper to put some form of fencing up around those spaces?
Not in that location because of the space available, and you actually need quite a lot of space between the barrier, and from a safety perspective as well. And that's part of the issue of it being quite close to those other items. If it was in a different space, then that would be possible. So we're having a look.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, members should note that report then. Thank you very much. I'll go on to item 8, which is the 3G pitch steering group and subcommittee on page 10. To ask the moot report and ask to consider the following recommendations. The observer committee approved 25-26 3G management and development plan on page 12. Any questions before we, does anyone need to say anything before we get started? Okay, so we'll add.
Not particularly, it's all there in the report, there's a virtual meeting, but generally speaking, it's standard.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a comment really, just like to draw the attention of everybody to the this development plan report, thinking ahead to the consultation that we're planning to do with residents. This report is absolutely fab because it gives you the whole history of the spending around here and all the kind of issues around it. And it's just the sort of material you'll need to be able to put in front of residents. So when they come and have conversations with us about what we spend our money on, and I'm thinking also the later item on the agenda, it's very factual but it gives you the story, and I think that's what we're going to have to be telling people of the story. So thank you to Ed and the quality of that report.
It's very often what happens is that things get done and then we quickly move on to something else, and then we forget and we got there, and we quickly forget a big investment over here or a big investment over there. It's very easy to brush past these things and think, oh, well, what did we do? And reports like this, you're right, they sort of do remind you a little bit, give you the history. There's a hell of a lot of work went into to creating that area in the first place. So
I think it's also, as when we talk later on about the allotment, normally, faintest idea, all the expense and the work that is involved with this. And we don't have to share that with people so that they can, when they say, oh, well, we'd very much like it, this, that, and the other, it's not as simple as going and buying a piece of kit or something. There's a lot.
I mean, the council has tried generally over the last few years. For example, we print all these minutes and reports; they get popped onto the website, so there's a lot more availability. But then it's getting people to know about it, which is the hard part. Which, to be fair, will probably always be an issue. But there you go. Okay, thank you. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, just a very quick one, Chairman. It was a good little meeting, but just a point of correction, I think, in that we got the Barks and Bucks FA G Hall, but further down is G Hill. I'm old enough to remember a footballer called Gordon Hill, so unless I'm thinking of the Manchester United winger that was. In the 1970s, I don't know.
I think she's a lady.
Was it a lady?
I think so.
Well, I don't know, it's just G, so I can't remember now. But it's down as Hall and Hill, so apologies if she's.
It's Hill, it should be Hill, so it's,
It is Hill.
it's just a typographical error.
Oh, I thought I just did it right. It's one thing that I was being to get your names wrong, so thank you.
Again, I don't know if this is the right place to bring this up because I'm not sure how you're covering this, but just on, because this is is a funny little meeting really, which we hold to satisfy the FA that we're not wasting their money. And so we only do it once a year, so there aren't any actions on here. But actually, we did have a couple of actions, in fact, from G Hill. Because there's no point in recording them in the minutes, because by the time we see the minutes again, it'll be a year past. But I wonder whether you consider pushing them in the leisure services, actions, because there were two things that she offered to do. One was to see if she got a banner to replace our Respect banner, and she also, and I can't remember the detail of it, but she was talking about that they might be able to get us a discount on some of the maintenance.
Yeah, I followed up on both of those actually already. To be really quick, she doesn't have any banners for us, and I already get a better discount than she does.
The thought was
Yeah. So yeah, I did look into it just in case, but the company that she uses is the same one that I use. I don't know how we get a better discount, but we do. So.
Well done you.
Okay then, in that case, I'll go on to item 9, which is youth services.
We've got.
Oh no, sorry.
Consider recommendation.
Oh, sorry, yes, we have, yes. So members are asked to consider the following recommendation made at the meeting. The Leisure Services Committee approved the 25-26 development plan on page 12. Can I have a show of hands for all those with approval, please?
7-4.
All those against? Those abstaining? None. Those are passed. Thank you very much. Right, in that case, I shall now take item 9, which is youth services, and there are a number of points here. So the first one is the strategy for youth services. So in line with the resolution of the committee held in November, the council strategy for youth services has been updated, and a new draft is appended tonight on page 47. Members are asked to consider making a recommendation to the strategy board regarding the adoption of such strategy. So, do I take that at the end of this, or do I take it as we go?
I would take this one as a separate item.
Separate item, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. So you've all read that, you've all seen the updated strategy. Can I ask for a show of hands to approve that we recommend this strategy to strategy resource.
6-4.
Those against?
None against.
Those abstaining? That is,
Is that 4? Yes. Okay. Sorry. That's 7-4.
that is passed then. Thank you very much. Okay.
I did want to ask a question. Are you going on to the progress update?
I'm going on to the next one now. Did you have a question on the progress update?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Let me get on to that then. So item B is the progress update. Note, during the week commencing 31, the 5 providers as an invitation to quote for the services that we have been bidding out for. Members are asked to consider approving the extension of the new support task and finishing until the 10th of September. So there are 2 bits there. I'll take the progress update first. Did you have a question?
Well, 2 things really. A statement, first of all, that I think probably you all share my frustration and as somebody who's on the youth services group, task and finish group, that it is taking longer than we had anticipated. It's unfortunate. And also to ask if you have had any updates from the tenders that you sent out to various groups to see if they could provide.
Yes, so I've had a couple of responses back. One was a good new contact that we received from Woking Borough Council, which was an organisation called Action for Youth. They were not in a position to collaborate with us at this moment in time, but felt that it would be something they might be interested in future, and they wanted to have sort of future conversations. And considering it will be such a flexible service, there will be the opportunity for discussions every kind of 12 months with different providers to see what's going on. So that was a good thing, but unfortunately nothing came forward. We had a response from the Chief Executive Officer at Berkshire Youth. She is on annual leave kind of towards the end of March and has said that she's away at the moment, but would very much like to meet up with me when she returns in April. So I will follow that up with her and have conversations to see what their points of view are and what they might be able to offer us. And we'll try and kind of get that pulled together in some sort of proposal, which we'll take back to the working group, should it be extended, to kind of consider. Kevin, I presume for the contract tender website, we haven't had any responses back. We haven't anything back in yet from that.
So we've had a few expressions of interest, but I think.
No, it'll be the only one solid progress is Berkshire Youth. They'll need to have a conversation with us about it, and hopefully that will generate a proposal for next year.
They see the interest of the board. Good. Any other questions?
Sorry, you went out so again. Just out of curiosity, the £89,400 in the earmark reserve, is that solely for capital expenditure or?
Yes, capital receipts.
So we'll take on to Seaman, is to extend the current service task and finish group until the 10th of September. Can I have a show of hands to approve that, please?
74.
Against? Right. That is approved. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so now we come on to item 10, which is what everybody is here for. Talk about allotment and to consider the report on page 51. Before we get going on that,
Yes, we do.
now Peter is an allotment holder at the allotments. He's not part of the committee or anything like that, but he has been expressing a point of view over some of the proposals that were made in this report, and he's prepared a question for us.
We hear what the committee have to say before we hear a non-committee member view.
Is he ready? Well, we would normally hear his question first and then debate it afterwards, to be honest with you, Mike, and I think he's ready to do that. But if he's not, we can.
Can you hear us, Peter? I can see him here and he's talking enabled, but here we go. There we go. Hello, Peter, can you hear us? So they might be having some technical issues.
Can we read Peter's question out
Yes.
for him in that case?
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that
Yes.
we read it out. We can't get through.
Of course, I'll do that. So, right, what Peter sent in, thank you for inviting me to your meeting. I've recently become aware that Woodley Town Council have instigated a £100 deposit for full-size allotment plot and is seeking to put in place a £500 deposit for a plot housing hens and or rabbits. My understanding is that the council is asking for these deposits in order to act as a disincentive against errant tenant behaviour, such as leaving plots in a poor state at the end of their tenancy. I acknowledge that plots being returned in an unmanaged state, often with plot rubbish, is an all too common occurrence. The National Allotment Society is strongly against the practice of asking for deposits, who say in their recent evidence to Parliament, we have serious concerns about inequality in the provision of allotments and the result of socio-economic stratification, which negatively affects lower income households. I share the Society's concerns, and the proposed hens rabbits policy is clearly a punitive measure designed to ensure that the keeping of hens or rabbits is a privilege only available to the very rich. Fundamentally, I feel the use of a deposit mechanism has not been fully thought through, and at its core is unfair and is an unfair and prejudicial initiative. I would like to ask the council to reconsider this approach and look for fairer ways to realise the same objectives. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank Peter for coming up with this and for putting his point of view. Sometimes it's quite difficult. I know he's expressed it on a number of occasions to all of us as councillors, so I think the message is loud and clear from his perspective. Kevin, have you got any words in terms of the written response that you gave before we sort of kick off with a bit of a debate here?
Yes, I mean, so just for a bit of background, there's a couple of things here to consider. Firstly, historically, refundable deposits have not been considered by the council's committees, which actually consider they should be in the same with the standard charges. So that going forward, so that's something we can do on an annual basis. At the moment, we charge a deposit for allotment keys since we put the new security system in place. Again, with the incentive for people to return their key at the end of the tenancy, which was an issue before. We probably had many hundreds of keys in circulation over many years of having the same lock profile, and that's worked well in terms of people handing their key back in at the end of the term. In terms of allotment plots themselves, we've been charging a refundable deposit since January 2025, and that is the rate for that is dependent on the size of plot. So, and you can see there in the report, smaller plots at £25 for the lifetime of the tenancy, medium-sized plots 50, and the large plots 100. The issue that we're trying to address is one of plot holders leaving a plot in poor condition with waste on it at the end of the tenancy policy in order to re-let that plot. Sometimes you'll get a tenant who's prepared to clear it himself if they really want a plot, but most of the time we're reliant on our amenities team having the time and resource to go up and clear those items. There's an estimate in here of the cost for that in this year, which is around £2,500. And the reason it's an estimate is because that waste is taken off site and put in our skips elsewhere, so that there's not even a dedicated skip along the site for us to calculate that. Going forwards, that is the intention. So the purpose of introducing that is to try and offset some of that cost. And in terms of the allotments, the point that Councillor Kennedy made earlier, that there is a cost to running the allotments. It technically, it runs at a loss. And we do have, I think it's important in that context to consider the relatively low rent for plots that is applied, and the discount structure we do have for that. So that's kind of in the mix as well. Just for example, and this is considered when the allotment rates are set in November, plots in Woodley are at £6.80 per pole. At the council's early is about £7.60 something. Woking much more at £11 something. So there's quite a difference in plot charges, and also different sites have different facilities. We've got water and toilets, food overloads, and there's investment in sites as well. So there are some other elements. So that's the issue in relation to deposits that you are being asked to consider. In addition to that, what you have here is a proposed agreement for the keeping of hens and rabbits on allotment plots. You may recall, I think it was at the last meeting, I reported that the status of the site has been confirmed by Reading Borough Council as a statutory site, which means that the Allotments Act 1950 applies, which provides an entitlement for tenants to keep hens or rabbits on the plot. That's the law from 1950, which is kind of in keeping with when it was introduced just after the war, in terms of people perhaps wanting to do that. So there is a legal entitlement for that. There are a lot of terms and conditions around that. There's legislation around registration of birds with DEFRA. There are regulations to do with the size and space for animals on those plots. And the council is able to and would need to have appropriate terms and conditions in place in order to manage that and inspect that and manage that going forwards. So that's the purpose of that that agreement. There is a proposed deposit specifically in relation to keeping of hens and rabbits on plots. which is suggested here at £500. The reason for that again is to offset the potential for plot clearance in the event that a tenant leaves the plot in a poor state, which in those circumstances could be animal waste, because there's just more potential for there to be cost for that to be cleared. Excuse me, the TV's gone off and I'm not sure why. Robert, can you still hear me?
Cable dangling, is that it?
Yeah, just about. You're coming in and out.
Okay, I think that the TV's gone off, so we can't see you. But if you're
Oh, I can still see you, and I can just about hear you. But you have been coming in and out quite a bit. So I've got closed captions on, and I'm trying to read it as we go.
okay. Perfect. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So yes, sorry. So just going back to what you're being asked to consider, and that is the principle of charging a deposit for allotment plots. And as I said, that's something that was instigated from January for new tenants. It's not proposed that we would apply that to existing plot holders. Many of them have had a plot for decades in some circumstances, but is intended to try and offset some of that cost and encourage tenants to leave it in a good state. And the second part of that is obviously in terms of the deposit amount.
Thank you very much. Michael.
I'd like to start by making a proposal, if I may, Chairman. And the proposal is that this council rejects the concept of introducing a deposit for allotment holders. I'm convinced that this is the way forward. And I'd like someone to be able to second that, and then we can move on to a discussion. So I've got some points to make.
Sorry, Mark, can you repeat that?
That we do not introduce a deposit scheme for allotment holders, and we refund those deposits that we've taken thus far to those tenants. Thank you. I'd like to then continue, if I may, Chairman, by saying I open up with an apology to say I've been a councillor now for 2 years and I'm ashamed and apologise I haven't actually been on the site. And I think the officers should arrange for all councillors, new and old, to have a visit to that site as a matter of some urgency. Because I don't believe that the accumulations of rubbish has happened overnight. This is a long-term problem, and I think it's a problem that we need to nip in the bud with the support of our allotment holders. I've been involved in allotments for more years than probably anyone else around this room. And I think that the idea of introducing a deposit is a sledgehammer to crack a nut. We should be working with our allotment holders. I believe there is a tenancy association, but I think there's a lot more that can be done. We can introduce, for example, a newsletter for our allotment holders to keep them informed. We can better consult with them on a regular basis. We can have an annual allotment holders meeting so that councillors and tenants can converse and to understand their needs and obligations. We need to have an open day so that tenants can show off their plots with pride and maybe have a best kept allotment competition, to engineer some degree of pride and passion in allotments. Members may not be aware that allotments is the only thing that Woodley Town Council has a statutory obligation to provide. Everything else is discretionary. And what are we talking about here? We heard this evening that the allotments cost the council around £8,000. And I know that there is an increase next year because the central admin costs have been reappropriated. So let's say £35,000. Well, colleagues, that's peanuts. That's peanuts for a service for Woodley residents. And I'd like to actually say that non-Woodley residents should not be on our waiting list. I don't know how many that would reduce our waiting list by, but allotments are they should be for Woodley residents only, not people who live outside of our patch.
Can I just add one thing just on that, which would be helpful? One of the terms of the lease is that residents of Reading Borough are also on that list.
Reading Borough, because of course they're Reading Borough Council allotments. Yes, of course. Thank you, Kevin, for correcting me on that. But as I say, this is a statutory provision. So in the grand scheme of things, the subsidy that the council taxpayers of Woodley are contributing towards allotments is so small. And I think, you know, the introduction of a deposit scheme is going to be punitive. It's going to dissuade some of the joy and benefits that people get from allotments, not just old people, but young people as well. You see families, old, young people on that site, and it's a joy to see what's going on up there. So I'm sorry if I'm going on, but I don't think we need to consult with our tenants. I think we are big enough and ugly enough to make decisions ourselves. We were elected to make decisions. I don't see the point of consulting tenants. I think we should go straight to a vote with a discussion, obviously, that we reject this proposal. Thank you.
Lucy.
Can I just add to what Mike said, that I don't think that the proposed deposit of £50 to £100 somewhere down the line is going to be enough of a disincentive to rogue allotment holders, whereas it might be enough of a disincentive for lower income families to gain the benefits that they would get from having an allotment.
Robert, do you want to say something?
Please, yes, please. Yes, we haven't got a councillor on the allotment tenants association, whereas we have a council representative on other groups. Maybe we should consider that. Perhaps see if there's a councillor that is currently an allotment holder, and see if they would be up for that. I would like to wholeheartedly support what Mike and Yvonne have just said. I couldn't agree more. I've just been reading through the sort of stuff that has to be cleared off these sites. Well, yeah, I'd rather forfeit £100 than have to take down a greenhouse, a shed, fruit cages, that sort of thing. That's a lot of work, and also to leave it weed free. If ever you've had an allotment, it's a never-ending task trying to keep them weed free. So yeah, I'd like to agree with Mike's proposal that we do not bring these charges in. Thank you.
David.
I'm sorry, Michael, I disagree. If we have the vote on Michael's proposal right away, it removes the opportunity for this committee to have a proper discussion.
Well, we're having a discussion now, David.
Well, no, you've got to ask for it to go straight to.
Well, no, we'll have a discussion.
Once the vote is taken, the decision is made. There's no discussion that can follow.
We can have a discussion now, but when I say go to the vote, I didn't mean straight away. Let's have a discussion on my proposal, and then we put it to the vote.
Thank you.
Well, let me start off.
Yeah.
I am in favour of the deposit scheme. Historically, the allotments have had a few problems over the years. Remember, there's 380 plots there, which is one of the largest set of allotments anywhere in the country. You look at the average, it's about 47 plots per allotment. We've got 380. Very, very difficult to manage. At the moment, the management committee of the allotment tenants works very well. And they actually go around, they check the plots, they offer advice to any newcomer, and they tell them where they're going wrong. That has operated for quite a number of years. We already charge a deposit for keys. My own proposal would be that the keys would be included in the deposit we now make for new tenants. A lot of people put their name down on waiting lists for allotments with all good intention, and they should be encouraged. That I thoroughly support. But many of them, if you look online, you will see the statement by many councils of bragging rights, or I've applied for an allotment, or I've got an allotment, whereas in fact, quite a number of people, they go in all fired up, ready to work on the allotment, but once they suddenly see the amount of work and effort that is needed to upkeep that, unless they are totally dedicated, they ebb off. And 6 months down the line, the terms and conditions of the tenants is they've got to have 25% under ready for cultivation within 3 months of taking on tenancy. And is it 50% after 6 months, Kevin?
Yes, I think so.
Many of them don't reach that level. Many of them don't reach that level. By having a deposit scheme, we stop those that are only half-hearted into taking out an allotment. We've stopped the necessity of them embarrassingly withdrawing after 6 months. They will get their money back in the event of the allotment being left in a similar condition to what they took it on. Yes, it's their responsibility to do it. But at the end of the day, the deposit is there to safeguard the council for any additional costs involved in the vacation of the plot. We can offer all help and understanding to new tenants, and the allotments committee already does that. They try desperately hard to encourage, but you do have the odd one or two who drop out because they underestimated the time and the effort into carrying out the works. That means the allotments are left for those who are keen to operate it. All in all, I think it's a win-win to have a deposit. Yes, some people are going through a hard time financially because of the cost of living crisis. But instalment plans can be made so that they maybe pay £10 a month for a month for their deposit. But I do agree that the deposit shouldn't be greater than the annual rent, which is what we're charging at the moment, by what Kevin said, for the smaller plots, but it would be reducing the amount of deposit on the 10 plots. Our rent, I think from the figures, it's £62, £63 we charge for a 10 plot. That should be the maximum deposit in my mind. But it should still be on a deposit basis.
Thank you, David.
Well, I think that we should be discussing this with the Tenants Committee. After all, the Allotments Committee are the ones that actually are doing a lot of the work. They must have good ideas on what they feel is best. I don't think we should ignore them. I think that that's being very supercilious to actually say, well, we don't have to discuss it with them because they are the ones that are working these plots, and it's very hard work on the allotments. I really do feel that we ought to be discussing it with them.
Can I just say that's what we've already done? No, we didn't discuss it, we've already introduced it.
I don't know whether it has been discussed with the,
Can I just make a point there, because I haven't actually said anything on my behalf, actually, as chair here. I think the concept of what we've got is a situation where, 10 years ago, I think we had about 200 plots, and now we've got this 360, is it? 380. And in the last year, what sort of churn did we have? 65 people handed back, and we filled that, and we've still got 50 waiting to come on. So we've got a very popular venue for allotments, but because of the growth that we've experienced and the increase in the number of plots, I think that the issue with waste and waste removal has been, even though we have improved the facilities on that site, and this council has invested considerable sums in doing that, I think it's becoming a bit of a problem. Now, it's been suggested that some of that is because of plot inspection, and actually, having talked to officers here, and obviously having looked at this subject over many years as a councillor myself, yes, we have struggled to maintain the inspection of those plots, and certainly as the number has increased, the inspection of those plots has become more difficult because there are so many more of them. And of course, it's been very helpful that we've had a lot of work. A lot of that work has been done by the allotments committee and the members of that committee to support the council in doing that. And I think that's improved in the last year or so. I think that really has from what I'm hearing. So I would, from my perspective, whilst I think the deposit mechanism is a good idea, there might be other options to encourage people, if they want to come back their plots, they clear them before they leave. Otherwise, it's not just, the £400 for the skip, it's 3 blokes going in for 2 days to clear it, and then having to take, in some cases, specialised waste away, which is very costly to dispose of. So it starts to become really difficult to manage, and I think the bigger we make it, more difficult it's going to become to manage. So we do need to think about more measures to put in place to try and control it better. So I would like to offer a counter proposal to Mike's proposal.
You can't, it's a direct negative. You can't negative.
Can I counter propose it? Can I counter propose it?
If you don't agree, just vote against it. Okay. You can't propose a motion that negates mine.
Okay, well, we'll do it.
Vote against it.
I've got a couple of things to ask about this. The first thing is the kind of process around this, and I'm not quite sure why we're discussing this post hoc. And given that it's quite a significant change, I think this should have come to this committee before it was applied.
I would agree with you, and I apologise for that, actually. As Kevin explained, it was something which had been under control of officers rather than included in the review and leisure service charges.
What I would suggest is that just refer it to the Standing Orders Committee, because I think perhaps we need to put something in there just to make that clear, where we've delegated authority and where we haven't, because actually it's quite ambiguous. I've had a look at that, and I've looked at the terms and references, SNR and thing, and it's not actually clear. So I think that's just a little sort of bit of housekeeping for us that we ought to do, just to protect the officers from any further instances like this. And then just getting onto the substantive kind of issue around waste management. My understanding of the intention of pushing this deposit thing in is twofold. One is to incentivise people to keep their plots at least tidy at the point at which they hand them over, and also to offset the cost. And in favour of both of those things, I think there's been I'm very much in favour of allotments. I'm in favour of subsidising them, because I think we probably get more benefits out of subsidising allotments in terms of the council's aims various areas like our green policy and so forth and so forth, then perhaps abandoned, of course. But having said that, we keep talking about how it may disadvantage people, and we are subsidising the service, and it's being subsidised by people in Woodley, some of whom are also feeling a pinch. And in fact, this may be an interesting thing for us to put in front of people when we're doing our consultation. So, you know, we can't just ignore the cost of that, and I think it's important that we also include the costs of officers' time, because we tend to kind of treat that as though it's an infinite resource.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree.
We're going around, you know, clearing up allotments. We're not doing something else, because I don't think any of our staff are sitting around at the end of the week with nothing to do, you know. So we can't ignore that. So I think the important thing is the fair. It's fair that we can explain this to residents, and they'll think, yeah, that's fair. So I would expect the costs arising from these problems to be shared between the council, and this is just kind of one of the things we have to live with, that we have people who, for whatever reason, are leaving things in the state, but also the people who are allotment holders. They should have some sort of skin in the game there. And I think, you know, I'd agree with everybody who said that we kind of need to go back and have a look at this, and very focused on what it is we're trying to achieve. Certainly, Peter had, one of the things that he sort of floated was putting a charge on, like we have for water, that is, you know, reflects part of the cost that's incurred every year to do this clearing up. And I could see some benefits of that in that that could be moderated, or, you know, changed every year according to how successful the Tenants Association has been in keeping people up to scratch. And there's a bit of a kind of incentive there. Also, it's fair, because at the moment, just applying this deposit to new people, I mean, even, you know, looking at the kind of rates of churn we have now, we're talking 6 or 7 years before it covers everybody, and actually it wouldn't necessarily be like that. It all depends how long people keep their plots. And, you know, I think I've got a bit of an issue about somebody new coming along and being walloped with 100 quid, and other people will perhaps, you know, never have to cough up this, because, you know, they'll fall off the perch, and they'll never actually have to sort of hand their plot over like that. I think the other thing is also we have to be quite careful as well about, there are people who, you know, are taking liberties. There'll be loads of scenarios where people perhaps are struggling, you know, as you get older to manage your plot. There'll be people who actually, you know, die, and the last thing that their families will be thinking of is, oh golly, have I got to go and clear their allotment, you know, and we just don't want to be heavy-handed about it. So I would agree. I think we do need to have some more talk, you know, talking with people about the best way of doing this. And as I say, I don't think we should rule out contribution from allotment holders towards that. I don't think it should all be borne by all the...
I think in the past we've tried to keep the rental and sort of what I call the annual charges as low as possible to try and encourage people to use the insurance. And I think we've been very successful with that, but I think we've been a little bit too successful. And that's why we're having to think in slightly more different terms. But I do agree with what you said. I think we do need to discuss it a little bit more.
Mike's point about us all going and having a look, because I mean, it'd be interesting to see what sort of stuff people are leaving behind. I mean, Peter sent us a photo with somebody who's got a couple of greenhouses on their plot, and I'm saying there's no reason why you shouldn't have a greenhouse and, you know, be growing for a long period. But I looked at them, I thought, they're not in bad nick, you know, perhaps somebody would like them or whatever. So, you know, I think there's scope to do stuff, but I think, again, we just need to have regard to the fact that these costs fall on all of our council taxpayers. So, you know, we need to be kind of reasonable. And not
this was my thing. It falls on everyone then to pick up the bill for those people that don't wish to comply with the terms of their tenancy agreement. It's a difficult thing to sort of like Yes, we'll subsidise it, we've been subsidising it for years.
But it's not how much, I think.
But it's not how much, and then, you know, as we grow it, I mean, they really, I mean, the popularity of the number of plots has grown significantly. And I think it probably does need a fresh discussion and a new look at how we do it.
I must say, I thought allotment holders were all going to be a bit Tom and Barbara, but really some of the
There was a real mixture.
Yeah. What is the annual,
Sorry, Robert, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I please request that we actually put it to the vote now? I think we've discussed this and we should vote on Michael's proposal, please.
So, Michael, do you want to go back through your proposal just really for everyone?
Well, yes, I suppose I've got a right of reply, but yes, I propose that we do not introduce a rent deposit scheme for allotment holders, and that we refund those payments that have been made from January 2025. Can I just pick up as right reply, as the proposal of the motion? Can I just ask us to consider this term allotments committee? You know, we're the leisure services committee. I don't think we have an allotments committee of Woodley Town Council. No. So I don't know what this allotments committee is.
It's the committee of the allotment tenants. So it's the allotment tenants association on the site that have an elected committee.
So it's Woodley allotment holders group.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Of which there is a town council who sits on that group.
There isn't, and that was the point that I think.
So, you know, what I want to say is, if the committee has worked very well, David's words, why have we got into this mess? You know, why have we got into this mess? I suspect it's because the frequency of inspections. I take the point that this is one of the biggest sites in the country. I managed 250 plots on one site in my previous authority. It worked well. We had an allotments committee of councillors who went out on a Friday evening in the summer and did inspections and made notes of those plots that were completely overgrown, that were slightly overworked, and we did letters. And I suspect, you know, that system has fallen by the wayside. I don't know if it's the allotments committee's responsibility to do that, or whether it's Woodley Town Council. It should be Woodley Town Council's job to do that, not some third party acting on our behalf. And if there was a closer working relationship, maybe we'd work. Anyway, I therefore move the motion, which has been seconded by Councillor Edwards, and put it to the vote, please, Chairman.
Always,
Before I go, can I put forward an amendment to that proposal?
You can
Please. The amendment would be to say that we will not introduce deposits until formal discussions have been had with the allotment association.
You heard that council proposal, all that stuff. But addition to the proposal that has just been made. All those in favour of that, please raise their hands.
So we're voting on the addition.
On the addition, yes, which is the consultation with the allotment
Yeah,
holders.
can I say so? Is Councillor Kennedy accepting the amendment to his proposal? I think that's probably what we should be asking.
Yeah, you should, and I don't.
There's another question.
I mean, I think the simple thing is, Chairman, you put my motion to the vote. It's been seconded. If it fails, then you have another motion.
So this is how I understood it. I didn't realise that we could do an addition to your motion. And then.
Well, there's an amendment to the motion.
Okay, can we just, to make it easier, can we just vote on Mike's initial proposal? And then, in this case, then we'll have a further discussion.
On the amendment first,
Yes.
because the amendment will.
Can we do that?
Let me just have a quick look at the standing orders and just check in terms of the order. I know the debate process is for formal motions that are presented that we send to full council. I just want to check whether in this environment it checks. Kevin, do you have an opinion on that right now?
Just looking for it.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, give me a second, I'll just give it to you. It's because we have, in our standing orders, we differentiate between motions, recommendations and proposals. And motions have specific rules of debate, whereas proposals are treated differently. So let me just go and check back on that. So just a clarification, a proposal is where a proposer and a seconder put forward any action which is not defined as a motion, either requiring or not requiring written notice, unless specified otherwise, proposals will proceed straight to the vote.
Right, in that case, you're not able to put an amendment to it.
It's not a formal motion, so that very structured debate process doesn't apply to the proposal. Obviously, the way you as chair wish to manage that in terms of open discussion and allowing discussion is then generally, that's why we've always had a process where you end up with generally a proposal that people are happy with, but I would recommend.
Sorry, David, we can't accept that. We'll have to go straight to the vote for White's proposal, which has been seconded. So you've already read that out. Can I have a show of hands to approve that, please?
2, 4.
Can I have those against?
5 against.
Those abstaining?
No abstentions.
That proposal has been defeated. I'd like to make another proposal. I'd like to propose that we defer this decision on whether we implement any of these charges until such time that we have taken additional feedback and consultation with the allotment holders committee, and that we consider their comments. We also take the opportunity to survey the existing tenants and potentially the new tenants to see what other options would be best for them in terms of how to charge. And do I have a CSI?
Sorry, can I just, a point of clarity, can we just be clear that that's for deposits for allotment plots as opposed to
deposits for allotments, yes.
One second.
And okay, you'll second that?
Can I just clarify the point?
Yeah.
So does that mean that the deposits that have already, although we're consulting, the deposits that have already been charged, will they stand, or are we going to refund those until we've had the discussion with allotment holders?
The proposal from Councillor Kennedy included refunding those. I think
That has been
It
defeated.
was defeated,
So we'll keep those deposits until such time as we finish this consultation, and then we'll either return the deposits or we'll decide what to do with it then. Thank you.
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to propose that this committee actually appoint 3 members of the committee to approach the Allotments Association.
Let's take that separately from my proposal first. Right. Let's take mine, because obviously we can't have another proposal. We vote on the second one. So all of those members in favour of the proposal I just made, please raise your hand.
5, 4.
Those against?
1 against.
Those abstaining?
No abstention.
Can I change my mind and abstain? I wasn't sure what to do there because obviously Mike's proposal's already failed, so we've got to move forward somehow. But I'm not sure that's the right.
That's fine. So that's 4, 4, 1 against, 1 abstention, and 1 no vote.
Okay. And Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, I mean, in view of the vote, we have decided that we need further liaison with the Allotment Tenants Association. So my thought is it would be advisable if possibly 2, 3 members of this committee be allocated the role in conjunction with either Matt or Kevin to
I don't mind going up there, but we only need, to meet with them,
to meet with them and to discuss the proposals in depth and see what their reaction is.
Well, let's organise a visit up there. I think that's the first thing. Because we have a good idea. Let's go up and visit them and have a look around, because we haven't done that for a long time. As we haven't got a councillor who is on their tenants committee at the moment, it'd be good for, say, 2 or 3 of us to go up there and do that. What would be normal?
I can discuss it. They've got
The
their
one
review on
thing-
Thursday.
The one thing that I would say is Councillor Drew, who is not here this evening, does have an allotment up there.
Councillor
Drew,
does she?
Yes.
yeah, she has an allotment there.
She tells us regularly.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so if we can organise a little tour up there, message round to all the councillors who want to attend for a little tour round. We don't need it. I'll just get the team here to do that.
Yeah, that'd be useful, yeah.
I'd certainly come on.
Yeah.
Because I think actually in some respects, some of us are not very close to the allotments and how it works with council members here. So we might be, to avoid people assuming things rather than actually knowing things and seeing them firsthand. I think we ought to understand that, because from my understanding, generally speaking, the relationship has been good. It's not been poor, it's been actually quite good. But if things do need to be looked at, we need to participate. Right then. Anything else on item 9?
For clarity, Chair, if I may, that has squared away the matter of plot deposits. What still remains in the information report being asked to consider is the other deposit amount. So there's a key long-standing key deposit policy.
I would like to propose that for hens and birds, whilst we have to do that, I would like more time to consider the proposal in terms of the agreement and the conditions that need to be met for doing that. I think that it's an area we know very little about. Whilst I know the team have done a lot of investigation, I'd like to allow a little bit more time for them to actually speak to councils who run and have birds and rabbits on their allotment sites, to see if there's any tips and tricks we can pick up that we ought to really include in the agreement or in the practical stuff, like how do we manage them, how do we inspect them, and do people need to be qualified to do that? Because there's a big difference between plants here and then to knowing how to husband plants properly and in compliance with the law.
We might need to introduce some bylaws as well.
Yes, I think there's a bigger issue there, so I'd like to defer that as well, please. Sorry, Jane.
That's right. I will say that with bird flu around us at the moment, I think we have to be very careful with hens, because if bird flu comes into the area, they have to be in an enclosed area under cover. And I think the whole thing
so much stricter now than they used to be in 1950, so I think we need
something we need to consider very, very seriously, because I do know that.
Okay, so I would prefer that we defer that decision until we've got more information and we've built up our guidance. Can I have a proposal for that, please? Thank you, Michael. Can I have a show of hands to approve that, please? Against? Abstaining? That proposal has been passed. Thank you very much. Any questions on allotments? Well, Yvonne, I know you're definitely.
I'm all allotment.
Will you be in contact with Peter after this?
Yes, of course, yes.
Tomorrow, to thank him and, to get.
I think you can probably still hear us.
We can't hear him.
No.
Okay then, item 11, which is the community deposits, the report on page 62. Kevin.
Yes, thank you. Similar in so much as previously the committee hasn't looked at these, we've had long-standing arrangements for returnable deposits for room hire, and the rates that have been charged for those for quite some time are shown there. The purpose of this report is to ask members to approve the continuation of those. That system works very well, is essential in ensuring that hirers leave on time and leave the rooms in an appropriate condition. What we have got there is there's a difference between the charge at Woodford Park Leisure Centre for hall hire and the community hall, so it's recommended that those be aligned and that those rates be £75 for lower risk bookings, which are kind of daytime bookings. Very low risk booking don't charge, and £200, which we charge for some social events bookings.
Any councillor have any comments before that's a vote? Okay. Okay, all those in favour, please show their hands. All those against? All those abstaining? I think that's... Yep. I'll take item 12, Friends of the Park update. So you see the update that's been provided by the Friends. It's out in appendix 12, page 63. Let me just have a quick look. Kevin, is there any feedback on the comment? Or was that Matthew on rating call?
For the Friends of Woodford Park? No, it's just to note, the amenities manager and one of the team continue to meet with their group regularly.
I know that the walking path has continually been an issue, hasn't it?
Yeah, and we're very aware of that. And just for some context to that as well, I mean, there are areas of the park I'm walking around it today that are still very wet, that never used to be wet. It is an issue, even though the areas on this side of the large mound. The memorial ground particularly has always been really dry in the last few years. It's been to the life of our ground scheme, likewise. It's wetter than they've known in kind of 30 years. Very consistently, so there's an issue.
Yeah. I know here the park, comments expressed for parking at their services centres as far as weekends. I mean, if you've ever tried to come down there on a Saturday morning for football or Sunday morning, you can't get parking place. And in fact, they're parking all over the place trying to get their kids some matches and stuff like that. So I appreciate that, but it is something that we will consider expanding when we do the refurbishment, hopefully, of the Woodford Park in the year or two to go with RIS. Do we have any complaints about dogs and people, uncontrolled dogs or dog fighting or anything like that?
Not that we've received.
Right. Any other comments on Friends? Okay, then we'll note their comments. Let's move on to item 13, which is future agenda items. For consideration, Mike.
So can I just say that I thought the debate on allotments was probably one of the most interesting I've experienced in the 2 years I've been a councillor. Congratulations on the way the meeting was.
Thank you. I want to make sure we all have a voice and everyone says what they want to say.
Absolutely.
Including our visitors.
Absolutely. But in view of this, I do believe that there is an opportunity here that we should grasp, right? I think David's proposal about the three councillors, I wondered if the officers could look at this in more detail and perhaps present a report to our next meeting on opportunities for working more closely with the Woodley allotment holders group, or whatever they like to call themselves, so we can consider ways where we can engage more closely, get better lines of communication, very similar to the Woodford Park users group, and if that group works together, then we can start to introduce some of the things that I talked about in my ramblings about, best kept allotments, newsletters, open days, annual meetings of allotment holders, so we can get that dialogue going. If the officers could produce.
No, I think that's a great idea, Mike. And I think, to be honest with you, a lot of that we touched upon when you go around and visit the allotments. If anyone can go along to their AGM on Thursday, next week. This week. Oh,
6:30.
that's tomorrow, isn't it?
Day after.
Oh, tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
That's good, but yeah, I agree with that. Right.
Yeah, just sort of following on from what Mike just said about best kept allotments, that's something that Early have been doing for a number of years. I think a best newcomer, all that sort of thing as well. It's how categories
We used to do it with the, we used to, I mean, they always used to do it. I thought they were still doing it. But again, I think this is what we're going to find out when we go. We might find a lot of these things are still very much.
I went to an allotment members AGM a few years back now, about 4 years ago. But I'm pretty certain they gave out presentation certificates for good.
I think they do a lot of this already.
Yeah.
It's just that I think it's because we haven't got a representative on there at the moment. We haven't got someone to talk to. I know Carol, who is on this committee, is a lot older, but
All I would say is, if I may just chip in a bit, officer level, we do meet with them regularly, and we do let them guide that agenda really for things that are concerning them at the site. We did have discussions with the representatives at those meetings, albeit them informal discussions about things like this. What I would say is, this year they've picked up quite a lot of work and struggle with it, just with members and people to do some of the things last year. As a chairman who was very effective for many years, he passed away, left quite a gap. And they've done well to kind of pull things back together, albeit
it's taking time.
I think we're right, there is not definitely an opportunity for us to
help out, maybe, yeah. Good. Okay. And then I will
Councillor Horseman.
Robert.
Thanks, Dan. I'm mindful that we shouldn't just appoint a councillor to the allotments tenants committee. We should actually ask them if they would like us to appoint one, perhaps.
I think that's yeah, I agree with that, Robert. And I think when we go visiting them to go around, these are the sorts of things we can find out. We can ask, and normally what would happen is that we would ask for volunteers to stand in that. And if we've got a vacancy, then we should be asking that question at full council, actually. Discuss that with them before then. Okay, good. Thank you, Robert. Okay, item 14, publicity and websites. Thank you, Jude, for your corrections to our website. I think that's a really good idea. Anything else that needs to be advertised or anything like that? Good. In that case, I will then close the meeting at 9:27. Thank you very much for all you've done, and thank you for the great debate that we've had this evening. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone. Great meeting. Bye.
Good, Robert.